So this brings us to the first topic today on our Rush Hour Roundtable. But first, we want to introduce you to our panel. We have Dr. Tracy Peason, legal analyst and executive producer and host of Deep Dive with Dr. Tracy. Erin Perrine, Republican strategist and former communications director for Senator Ted Cruz and President Trump's re-election campaign. We also have Dr. Christina Greer, political analyst and host of The Blackest Questions at the Griot, and Casey Hendrickson, host of The Casey Hendrickson Show on 95.3 MNC Radio. Panel, thank you so much for joining us. Our question to kick things off today: was Garland's announcement today concerning the raid too little too late, or was he going above and beyond? We'll go right down the line. We'll start with Dr. Tracy.
I think that he was going above and beyond. I don't think the American people have a right to know all that information. You have a right to a free and public trial, but when it comes to investigations, we keep that information close to the vest because we don't want to compromise investigations or our sources.
Erin?
This is not the Attorney General going above and beyond, because all he was actually doing was refuting terrible reporting and leaking from a story. If he had said this, he could have put it out in a release. It's not saying anything other than the Newsweek story regarding his involvement in this was wrong. And there should be transparency in this because it's historic and an unprecedented action against a former president of the United States. This should have been done 2 days ago, and it could have been done 2 days ago, but instead they let the news cycle get out of control, and it could have just been a press release today. This really didn't do much.
All right, Dr. Greer, what do you think?
Well, we have the politics and we have the reality of the situation. And so, first things first, it's, I caution against calling it a raid in the sense that the FBI has done their due diligence and have spent many months, possibly years, investigating a president who called to have his vice president, harm done to him. I think because this particular ex-president incites such violence and his supporters are so violent towards those members who work and serve the nation, I think it is important for the AG to contextualize where we are, since it is such an unprecedented process that we're experiencing.
Casey, what do you think?
On conspiracies aside, I mean, he was forced to do this because a federal judge ordered him to respond to the Times Union Judicial Watch order to release and unseal this search warrant. So he had no choice because he only had between now and the 15th of this month to even respond to it to begin with. So no, he wasn't going above and beyond. His hand was forced because the Free Press had demanded that this be unsealed, and it was clear that the Trump team wanted this to be unsealed.
And now we do know that, Trump's attorney has a copy of this. So in theory, I mean, the former president or his attorney could release these details.
Well, according to Trump's team, it's different, though. They have one part of it, but they don't have all of the specific details. And they've been very clear about that. They want all of the details released. What they have still has sealed components that a federal judge yesterday ordered to be released.
This is also a president who has.
Excuse me. Sorry. Most people don't want this information to be public. And so you have to question the motivation of the president or the former president, the private citizen that had a search warrant served on him. You have to question his motivations for putting it out there. He's the one who's putting it in the news. The reporting wasn't bad. I do agree that the word raid is wrong, but I think that the Attorney General didn't have any obligation to talk to us at all. The fact that he did, I thank him for that.
The reporting was bad. Newsweek said that Merrick Garland did not and was not involved in the warrant or the execution of it. And then Merrick Garland had to come out today and say, I personally signed off on this. So Newsweek got the story wrong and their sources were wrong. I have yet to see a retraction or a correction at all from Newsweek relative to a story that was incorrect. And the Attorney General essentially had to go out and be his own PR person and clean up.
I think we should focus on the reality at hand, which is it's a former president who has multiple lawsuits, not only in Florida, but Georgia and New York. He was just sitting with our attorney general in the state of New York just yesterday, because we've never seen a president who is engaged in this much possibly illegal and criminal activity. So it is important for the attorney general of the United States to help give some sort of context for the American people. No, he does not have to do that. But we also know, as I said before, because the former president's supporters can be so incredibly violent to those who are elected officials or pundits or those in the media or regular citizens, I think trying to bring the temperature down with such an egregious series of behaviors from the former president is really important in this particular moment. Especially as we celebrate the 5th year of Charlottesville, where the then president said it was good people on both sides, and we've seen how that was just a precursor to January 6th and the violence we experienced then.
Yeah, we can repeat the Charlottesville lie all we want, but we all know that he completely condemned white supremacists on there. And even the chief of police in Charlottesville made it very clear that there were 4 groups there, 2 groups who were peaceful on opposing sides, a violent Antifa outburst, and then, of course, the violent white supremacists who were there. That is crystal clear, and that's a matter of record. Repeating the Charlottesville lie doesn't do anybody any good. And the fact of the matter is,
what about
the
both
Attorney
sides?
General,
How are there good
the
people on
Attorney
both
General
sides?
was going to have to go out there. The Attorney General was going to have to go out there and have to respond to this by the 15th anyway. His hand was forced. He didn't want to tell anybody about this. It was Team Trump who wanted people to know, just like Team Trump was out there telling everybody that he wanted these documents unsealed to begin with, when we found out that the Department of Justice refused to do their duty and release those documents as ordered by the President of the United States until he got out of office. And then they just didn't release the documents that they were ordered to declassify, which, by the way, probably should warrant an FBI raid on some people. And this is the reality is, we have a situation where we're dealing with potential documents, right? And even if Trump did anything wrong, the fact that nobody has cared about this going back to Sandy Berger and has never actually done anything about this in the past, nobody's going to buy this type of police activity or FBI raid. And it is by definition an actual raid. You talk to any police officer, any federal
Casey,
agent,
I want to jump in.
I
want to jump in there to the panel here, because traditionally, I think that takes us to another aspect of this. Traditionally, this is a party very supportive of law enforcement. At this point, though, now some Republican leaders are calling to defund the FBI and the Department of Justice. So based on that, is now a good time to potentially reevaluate our justice system?
Well, I think the FBI has some real credibility issues.
Yeah, there are major concerns. The Department of Justice was investigating parents for pushing back on CRT and standing up. They were calling them domestic terrorists. Absolutely, there should be more oversight and conversations about what the funding is doing there and who these individuals are. Absolutely, it's completely fair game.
Doctors, Laura, Christina, you guys both agree? At this point,
I find this quote unquote conversation just not in good faith. I mean, if we can't even agree on basic facts, which is, what happened in Charlottesville, which has led to January 6th, if we aren't even talking about what happened with Bill Barr, excuse me, I'm still speaking. If we are still debating the fact that Donald Trump has incited violence across this nation and his Attorney General Bill Barr aided and abetted so many ridiculous crimes and allowed the president to do so, I don't understand why we're having this conversation if we're not going to have
any crimes. Please name them. What crimes?
She won't be able to answer.
Yeah, that's not a question she can answer because it's so easy to placate and try to talk in these vast generalities when you don't have the facts on your side. So unless you have a specific crime, which a criminal warrant would mean that you would be able to prove, show in a specific place that you could support a crime, which they weren't able to do in this instance.
That isn't actually how a search warrant works. No, ma'am.
You can't. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, if you just want to shout over me. No, but unless you're going to actually name a crime that you believe the president committed, you just sound absolutely ridiculous. Name a crime. Name a crime, please.
I don't have to.
I can actually name one.
Well, then don't shout over me.
I can actually name one if anybody's interested. The FISA court repeatedly saying that the Comey FBI was routinely and consistently violating the law and violating American civil rights. And Director Wray and Andrew McCabe sitting there in the FISA court, there's a reason the court released these documents and promising that they were going to end those programs. And over the past 6 months, we have found out not once but twice that the FBI has continued those illegal programs on American citizens of warrantless surveillance. That's a crime. Where's the raids on that?
All right, Dr. Laura, I saw you shaking your head there. Let's just get some final thoughts and then we'll move on. Dr. Laura, did you know? I saw you shaking your head. No?
Who's Dr. Laura?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you talking to me?
I'm sorry, Tracy, Dr. Tracy.
No, I worry about disinformation. I worry about the network spreading that. And this is extremist stuff that I'm hearing. And I feel that it's inappropriate to be giving out false information to the American public. So I'm going to leave it at that.
All right.
And here's the thing. I can give you the actual court documents from the FISA court. This is not something that's written about on some blog. It's written about in your traditional corporate media. This is not something that is secret. The FISA court took the unprecedented step of releasing the transcripts of that program, and then they've continued to violate that program. That is a fact. That's not me spreading some rumor. That's not some blog post somewhere. That's not misinformation. That is an absolute news story.
All right, well, panel, certainly very active discussion on this one. Right after the break, we're gonna change the tone here. We're gonna move on to the teacher shortage across our country. Is it time for schools to possibly loosen their standards so we can try to get more teachers into those classrooms and back on the job? Our panel. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.